Hey, it's Michael Douglas. Welcome back to Dr. Pundit, and I think I'm going to try to answer an age-old existential question. Was Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, released in 1967 by the Beatles, the first ever rock concept album? Now, before one can answer that question, one must first establish if it should even qualify for that category. Michael Douglas here, and it is Dr. Pundit, where we talk about music, not medicine. John Lennon was one of four men responsible for making the album happen, of course. He didn't think this was a concept album, but I'm here to disagree with him and explain my reasoning on why it's not only a concept album, but also one of the best. And I'm not even a big Beatles fan, as you all know. So first, Lennon's opinion. When people started to assess rock history in the 1980s and 1990s, the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper Lonely Heart Club Band album began topping lists of the greatest albums of all time. Okay, once a consensus builds up, it's natural by inertia, you could say, that a contrarian view starts to take hold. Sgt. Pepper's often falls below other Beatles albums when talked about within the canon of the artist, say such as Abbey Road or Revolver. Now, John Lennon may not have argued about that point, but in an interview and talking about the album, he claimed that the album's premise was hastily abandoned. And after the second song on the record, the conceit of the Beatles actually performing in the guise of a fictional band disappears, only to be revived briefly before the end of the album. I do think, for the record, he is right about that. But that's not really the theme that matters when it comes to this album. Instead, it's something I think more subtle. So subtle, perhaps maybe even the Fab Four themselves didn't realize what they were really bringing to the table. Now, if you take note of all the stories behind the songs of Sgt. Pepper's, nearly all of them focus on the lives of everyday people doing pretty basic things. And at no point do you ever feel like you're listening to the exploits of rock stars. And in some cases, these stories do contain a layer of aspiration. The narrator of Lovely Rita, perhaps to score a date. In the song Getting Better, the protagonist believes in improvement, both in what he can and can't control. Entertainment enters the picture when a local circus, with all its attendant oversized hype and pomp, comes to town, and the track being for the benefit of Mr. Kite. Now, other times, the characters realize just how mundane their lives are, and not all of them really care about that. In Good Morning, John Lennon's protagonist chafes against the dreariness of suburbs. By contrast, Paul McCartney's voice in Fixing a Hole is just fine with menial tasks and a restless mind. The final track, A Day in the Life, depicts a struggle to find some kind of meaning in an everyday quotidian existence. And spurred on by the unexpected death of someone he knew, John Lennon muses on things that everyone does to occupy their time, all while that time is running speedily away from all of us. And when one considers these pedestrian, downcast topics, why doesn't the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's ever sound depressing or boring? I mean, really. The Beatles, operating at the height of their studio powers at the time of this album's release, consistently deliver music that soars to just incredible heights. And this album is nothing less than an advertisement for the power of art to elevate us, the listeners, from the gravity of frustrating routine. Okay, well, maybe John Lennon was right about Sgt. Pepper's losing the plot, but it does something far more important at the end. Time after time, it shows that an amazing song can transcend doldrums. And I think that's a concept I can get behind, and I would argue that anybody who enjoys this concept album, in my humble opinion, can as well. So in terms of this album, it is quite influential. But when you look at it in the scope of the Beatles catalog, it's not at the top. If I had to, and I'm not sure why you would listen to me, but I guess you are, and I'm kind of flattered by that. If I had to pick my favorite Fab Four album, it would be Abbey Road. But again, Sgt. Pepper's is one of the most, if not the most, influential albums of all time, taken in the evolution of popular music in this country. I do think it is the first truly conceptual album, and it did reinvent the Beatles as musicians and their overall public personas. It created rock subgenres. I think that would be another fine discussion in another episode of this show on YouTube. It's an amazing album with inventive production and lyrics that no one even thought of before. So, in my opinion, everything above, and its innovation, its sheer innovation, and how much it influenced artists after it. So yes, this album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, great album. I don't think it's the Beatles' best album, but let's take it for what it is. Its discrete release, taken per the album, was extremely influential. No matter where on the scope of its influence you think it is. I think most people would definitely think that it is extremely influential. And that's where I'll stop. Okay, an influential concept album. I'm Michael Douglas. If you like what you see here on the channel, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. And as the late, great Barry White always used to say, let the music play. And I'll see you on the next episode.